All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'll pray for us. Father, thank you for your goodness. Thank you for the privilege of studying your word. I pray that you help us today. I pray that we would love you more and believe more about your word because of our time together today. And I pray in all of it that you will focus our minds on Christ and the provision of Christ and the greatness of Christ, and to see the promises that Christ has enabled for us. We pray all these things in His name. Amen. I wanted to point out there was a student struggling with a peanut allergy. So if we could be careful about bringing peanuts in as a snack, that would be great. Allergies like that can be horrible, and if we can accommodate that, that would be very good. What we're going to do today is look at Genesis 18 and 19, and this is basically the story of Sodom and Gomorrah and what led up to Sodom and Gomorrah. And so I just want to read the text and point a few things out, and then we'll talk about how this Sodom and Gomorrah story plays out in the rest of the Bible. So this is what the text says. And the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre, and he sat at the door of his tent in the heat of the day. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing in front of him. So this is an odd theophany in that it says the Lord appeared, but then what you see is 3 people. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, the 3 men were standing in front of him. When he saw them, he ran to the tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the earth and said, O Lord. And what's strange about that in Hebrew, at least to me, is he said, O Lord, but this word Lord literally is the word my lords, plural. So this is the word Adonai. It's the usual replacement for the tetragrammaton, but here it's the word in the plural. And the reason we know it's in the plural is because my Lord is the word Adoni, and this is Adonai, which is the little N part of it is the my, and then that vowel determines whether it's singular or plural. And so this is, you don't know when you're reading it in Hebrew, is he addressing one person or is he addressing all 3? If I have found favor, Hain, who found Hain in God's eyes? We studied, somebody found Hain in God's eyes. Noah. Right. If I found Hain in your eyes, you singular, do not depart from your servant, singular. So all of that would seem to suggest that the word Lord is being used of one person. Would you grant that? All these pronouns are singular. But then verse 4 says this, let now a little water be taken, and y'all wash y'all's feet. I mean, that's southern, but it's plural, right? You all wash you all's feet, and you all sit underneath this tree, and I'll bring a morsel of bread that you all may refresh yourselves, and after that you all may pass by, since you all have come to you all's his servant. So what's interesting about that to you? Like, that's weird, isn't it? I mean, it's like, is it one person? Is it three? Is it God? Is it God and two angels? It's weird that... Is it the Trinity? And then it says, so they said, do as you say. Let's suppose it's God and two angels. What do you find weird about that? Usually when God talks, like, everybody else shuts up. I mean, you know, you peer to God like flat on your face, don't say a word. That's a, you know, these people are talking at the same time the central figure is talking. And so is it all three of them are God? Is it one of them is God? Let's keep reading. Abraham went quickly into the tent and said, quick, make 3 seahs of fine flour. So a seah is about 7 quarts. So do you know what a quart is? Have you ever seen one of those round oil cans? Like, that's a quart. So 3 seahs of that would be 21 quarts of fine flour. Help me. That seems like a lot of food to me. 3 seahs of fine flour, knead it and make cakes. How many cakes would you make out of 21? A lot. Abraham ran to the herd, took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to a young man who prepared it. Then he took curds and milk and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them, plural, and he stood by them, plural, under the tree while they ate. So is it God and 2 angels? Is it? We don't know. They said to him. That's really weird if it's God and 2 angels. They said to him, where is your wife? He said, she's in the tent. Then the Lord said, capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. So that's usually Yahweh. But, so it switches, right? They said to him, where is your wife? And he said, behold, in the tent. And he said, so who is the he? We don't know. I will certainly return to you about this time next year, and there will be a son to Sarah, your wife. And Sarah was listening at the opening of the tent, and she was behind, and it was behind him. And Abraham and Sarah were old people, advanced in years, and the way to women had ceased to Sarah. So what's that saying? She's a postmenopausal woman. And Sarah laughed inside herself, saying, after I'm worn out and my Lord is old, will this Edenah be to me? What does that sound like to you? Eden. So Eden is the garden of pleasure. So she's saying, I'm a worn out old woman. Is this pleasure? Is this Eden going to be to me? And my Lord, see that, my Lord? And remember I said you got Adonai and Adoni? Okay, this is Adoni, my Lord singular. And that's how you spell my Lord singular, that little dot under the letter, not one of these letters. That's, you put that if it were plural. And my Adoni is an old man. And Yahweh said to Abraham, why is this that Sarah laughs, saying, shall I indeed bear a child now that I'm old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return, and Sarah will have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, no, you did laugh. Then the men set out from there, and they looked down toward Sodom. So, this word, Yashkifu, like, is a really weird word. It doesn't appear that much in the Bible. But where it does appear is in Psalm 14, where Yahweh looks down from heaven to see if there are any who are righteous. So they stood there, and the men did, and they looked down on Sodom, and Abraham went to them and sent them on their way. So, okay, I think I've got it now. It's Yahweh. Yahweh is the central figure, and then these other two are sent to Sodom. Would you grant that that's the way to read it? I mean, that's the obvious way to read it, right? So it's Yahweh, and it's two angels. I still don't know why they talked at the same time, but it's Yahweh clearly is there, and the two angels are Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Am I making that case? Okay. So they've gone, Yahweh said, shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do, seeing that Abraham sure will become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed in him. For I have, and then I've got a quibble with the ESV here. It says, for I have chosen him. And that's absolutely what this means. That I picked him out. There were other people and I picked him out. It means that. But it's not what it says. What it says is anybody taking Hebrew in here now? Or anybody know? It says, I have known him. I have known him. It means chosen, but the word is know. For I have chosen him that he might command his children and his household after to keep the way of Yahweh by doing righteousness, so that Yahweh may bring to Abraham what he has promised to him. And Yahweh said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is very grave, I will go down. I will go down to see whether they've done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me, and if not, I will know. So the men turned there and went toward Sodom. But Abraham still stood there before the Lord. Okay, so the Lord said, I will go down, but it's the two angels going down. I thought Yahweh was going down, but Yahweh's still here. Okay, I'm confused. Let's keep reading. Then Abraham drew near and said, will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you sweep away the place and not spare it for 50 righteous people who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to put the righteous to death with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the world do rightly? And Yahweh said, if I find 50 at Sodom, righteous in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Abraham answered and said, Behold, I have undertaken to speak to the Lord. I have undertaken to speak to Adonai. So that it isn't Adonai, it has that little A class. So I have endeavored to speak to my lords, I who am but dust and ashes. Suppose 5 of the 50 are lacking. Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5 people? He said, I will not destroy it if I find 45. Again he spoke to him and said, Suppose there are 40 there. He answered, For the sake of 40 I will not do it. Then he said, Oh, let the Lord, and it's that word, let my lords, don't let my lords be angry, and I will speak. Suppose there are 30 there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30. He said, Behold, I have undertaken to speak to the Lord. And there it's that A class, my lords again. Suppose there are 20. He answered, For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. Then he said, Oh, let not the Lord, my Lord, be angry, and I will speak again but this once. Suppose 10 are found there. And he answered, For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. And the Lord went his way when he finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Okay, so I'm confused. Who's going where? Let's keep reading. The 2 angels. Okay, here in the text, it's angels. We were confused. It's angels. 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed himself to his face to the earth and said, My lords. But notice he does it with a slightly different vowel there. So this is the normal way you do my lords. Whenever it's my Lord Yahweh, it's got that little tail on it. So it's like, okay, I'm a little confused here, but behold, my lords, turn aside to y'all's servant's house, and y'all stay here, and y'all wash y'all's feet. Who said that before? This is exactly what Abraham said. And then that you all may rise up and early and go you all's way. And they said, No, we'll spend the night in the town square. But he pressed them strongly, so they turned aside and entered into his house. And he made them a feast. And he made them a feast and unleavened bread, and they ate. That seems exactly what Abraham did. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people from the old ones to the insignificant, surrounded the house, and they called to Lot, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them. And that's know in a sexual sense there, that we may know them. And Lot went out to the men at the entrance and shut the door after him and said, I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Behold, I have 2 daughters who have not known any man, not had relations with any man. Let me bring them out, and you do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. And they said, Stand back. And they said, This fellow came to sojourn, and he has become the judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. So it's not like they're wanting just to have sex. They're wanting to have degrading sex for the 2 men who are really angels. Then they pressed hard against the man Lot and drew near to break down the door. But the men reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And they struck with blindness men who were at the entrance of the house, both small and great, so that they wore themselves out groping after the door. Then the men said to Lot, then the men, so it's not calling them angels, it's calling them men, have you anyone else here, sons-in-laws or sons or daughters or anyone you have in the city? Bring them out of the place, for we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry of this people has become great before Yahweh, and Yahweh has sent us to destroy it. Okay, finally, I've got it. So it's Yahweh, and it's two angels, and those angels were sent by Yahweh to destroy. So Lot went out and said to his sons-in-law who were to marry his daughters, get out of this place, for Yahweh is about to destroy the city. But he seemed to his sons-in-law to be jesting. As morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, up, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, lest you be swept away in the judgment of the city. But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his two daughters by the hand. Each of the two angels grabbed two people. The Lord being merciful to him. Let's see what this word mercy is. In the compassion, and that phrase is used elsewhere. Lord being merciful to him and brought him out and set him outside the city. And as they brought them out, one said, escape for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the hill, lest you be swept away. And Lot said, oh no, my lords. So this is weird. Lot said to them, oh no. And what's it there? The normal or the Yahweh one? It's the Yahweh one here. No, oh no, my lords. Behold now, if your singular servant has found grace in your eyes, singular, then you singular make great your chesed, which you singular did with your with me to preserve my life, and but I cannot escape to the hills lest disaster overtake me and I die. Behold now, there's a city near enough to flee to, and it's a little one. Let me escape there. I know you're going to spiritually carpet bomb this place, but can I move and just outside the city limits? Will that be okay? Is it not a little one in my life be saved? 21. He said to him. I thought there were two angels. Okay, I'm maybe confused again. He said to him, behold, I grant this favor to you also. I will not overthrow this. I thought it was the angels. Oh, but it was Yahweh overthrowing. So is one of these angels Yahweh? I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Escape quickly, for I can do nothing until you arrive there. Therefore, the name of the city is called Zoar. The sun had risen on the earth, and Lot came to Zoar. Then, and you should just mark this in your Bible, then Yahweh, YHWH, rained down on Sodom and Gomorrah fire from with Yahweh from heaven. Yahweh rained down fire from Yahweh in heaven. Verse 24. I thought Yahweh was in heaven and it was two angels, but now we've got one of those angels being called Yahweh. So what in the world is going on? Three people, one, your servant plural, your servant singular. Yahweh will, until about 400, the Jewish explanation would say, oh, there's no problem with this text. That's the little Yahweh. You see, there are two powers in heaven. There's the big Yahweh and the little Yahweh. And the big Yahweh does stuff and sometimes sends the little Yahweh to earth. And the little Yahweh will do things. And in fact, the little Yahweh has a name, Metatron. If you're a Christian and you overhear a rabbi talk about the little Yahweh, what are you going to do with that argument? So that's exactly what Christians did until about 400 AD. And then the rabbi said, you know what? We're getting creamed with this whole little Yahweh. Next guy opens his mouth about little Yahweh, you're out. And so the rabbis just totally cut down that as an explanation. But for centuries, they admitted that there are two powers in heaven. In fact, we have a book by a Jewish man, Alan Siegel, called Two Powers in Heaven, Early Controversy, and it outlines the dozens and dozens of passages that deal with places just like this, where in the text you seem to be having two figures being called Yahweh. He overthrew those cities and all the valley and all the inhabitants of the city that grew out. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham went early in the morning where he had stood before with the Lord. He looked down. Remember that strange word? This is the same word. Looked down from toward Sodom and Gomorrah and all the land of the valley. He looked, and behold, the smoke of the land went up like the smoke of a furnace. So it was when Elohim, that's our friend, the plural, you know. So it was when Elohim, plural, when he destroyed, and Elohim, plural, he singular, remembered Abraham and sent Lot from its midst. And then we have this whole Lot and his daughter thing that we went over the other day. And that's where you get the Moabites and the Ammonites. So, that's Genesis 18 and 19. Read through Genesis 18 and 19 and make some observation on the text. That was your homework question. What did you see? Rachel?
I was kind of wondering, because like everything that God does is symbolism, and when Lot's wife looked back, she became a pillar of salt. So why salt?
Seems strange, doesn't it?
Something that's good in a sense that we're supposed to be salt and light.
But she died. It's like, yeah, we're watching this as a movie, and it's like, okay, I'm not quite getting that. I'm not getting it either. Jack?
But like salt is also supposed to be like, it's a preserving agent for me. It dries out things. So like maybe calling her dry.
Could be that. Too much salt will kill you. The salt sea is so salty. It's 7 times saltier than the Atlantic Ocean. If you drink 1 glass of the Dead Sea, you're dead. Shut all your organs down. I have a friend who is a former Navy SEAL, and he talks about playing in the Dead Sea, and they put the water in their mouth and shoot it out at each other. And it's like, yeah, that sounds like something people would do. But it'll kill you if you drink it. Death.
It said that therefore the city was called Zoar. What does Zoar mean?
Little place. Persephone.
Even though this passage is kind of sad and it ends like going on with Lot and his daughters, it's also like really sad. I noticed how much grace.
There's grace all in it.
Because Abraham was talking to God.
Please say
Hey, can you have mercy on
50, 45, 40, 30, 20, 10.
And they dragged Lot out of the
Dragged him out, kicking and screaming almost.
And it was, and like the blessing of the child for Sarah as well. Like that.
Yeah.
Was really, it just as sad as this passage was.
There's grace all in it. That's right. Tell me your name again. Cody.
It's kind of going with what she's saying. It's like when God flooded the earth, like basically restart. Like when it's talking about like giving up his two daughters to keep the men safe. Why didn't he just wipe it out again? Because that was insane.
So Lot is doing a righteous thing in protecting the two men. Would you grant that that's a good thing? So he's saying, okay, you're going to gang rape these men. I don't want you to do that. Gang rape my daughters. Like what? What? You know, you want to say to Lot, did you just say what I think you said? That's weird. How in the world could he say that? I mean, that's evil. I saw David's hand and then Jackson's hand.
I just think it's really interesting that, Abraham washes their feet and feeds them unleavened bread, right?
Yeah.
And then Lot feeds them unleavened bread and washes their feet. And God is making a promise to them of, bearing fruit of having a nation, a kingdom, right?
Yeah.
And then to Lot, he's saving Lot, even though he doesn't deserve it.
Dragging. Oh, so you're going to grant that Lot doesn't deserve.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
He sacrificed his daughter.
Yeah. He's yeah.
One job as a father is to not.
Yeah. I mean, go out and fight to the death. That's righteous. It's like, okay, you people may get to do and you may not, but it's going to be on my dead body. That's righteous. But he doesn't do that.
But it's interesting because it's kind of like what God does with Jesus. It's like a fake, messed up version of what Lot does because God gives his son,
To save. Let's hold on to that. Okay.
and Lot's doing it and Abraham's doing it. But then, the whole thing with God saying he will fulfill the covenant even if Abraham can't.
Yeah.
It's like the Last Supper is almost like God fulfilling the part of the covenant that even though Abraham did it, he didn't do it right. So, and Lot,
Yeah.
could do it right, so he was fulfilling it completely.
That's a very interesting.
There's starting to be a recurring theme of people not going to the land that they're supposed to go to. Like, hey, go out to the hills. I'll say
Halfway. Oh, I never did. And that's exactly what Abraham did. Go, and he goes halfway to Haran, but
Jacob does it after he meets Esau. He was supposed to go back, I think, to
oh, and he goes, oh yeah, a theme. And then the Jewish people. And then there were some people in the 21st century who, never mind.
Do you think maybe Lot intended to save Zoar because the angels were destroying all the cities in that area, not just Sodom? So maybe
Yeah.
if I'm in there, they can't destroy it.
Yeah. Let's think about another story in that. Read through Judges 19 through 21 and make some observation on the text. Tell me about Judges 19:21.
Very prideful man
Yeah, so what's his profession in life? Who are the Levites? Oh, people who work in God's tabernacle. Oh. So if we were translating this story to modern day, who would this guy be? Right. Right. Yeah. So the pastor has a concubine. Now, help me with what? Not familiar with that concept. Concubine. What is a concubine? Looks like a wife, acts like a wife, not a wife.
I mean, they do call her his wife later.
No, they call him her husband, but they never
Call her.
his wife.
So we've got a pastor who has a concubine. Okay. A pastor who has a concubine. Is that a good thing? Like maybe he's a megachurch pastor. Sorry, was that over the line? Sorry. I walked into that one, sorry. But pastors shouldn't have concubines, right? And does this guy have a drinking problem? What's that? Oh, sorry, I said it wrong. Shouldn't have concubine. You should definitely have a wife, but should not have a concubine. Sorry. Yeah. So I'm recording all these, but I wanted to make up front. Sometimes I get the wrong word, so please give me grace. So this guy has a concubine. Does this guy have a drinking problem too? Like he gets smashed out of his mind 5 days in a row, and finally he says, "I've got to leave." It doesn't tell you why he's got to leave, but can you come up with a suggestion why he might need to go back to where he was? He might have to preach on God's holy day. Oh, well, for a while there I thought you might be a bad person going and then getting smashed, every day. But I don't know. Maybe you're getting some sermon illustrations out of it. I don't know. This guy looks like some pretty bad guy to me. And he's a racist. Did you pick up that? Oh, we can't go in those cities. Those people. Really? Those people not like drunk pastors who have concubines, but yeah, you're right. Those people, we can't go there. And so they go into Benjamin. And would you grant that this is the Sodom and Gomorrah story again? I mean, it's almost the same details, right? Sleep in the square, don't do that. Men surround, bring out, we want to gang rape the man, and what does the householder say? A daughter, right, and so what do they do? Yes, tell me your name. Veronica. They gang rape the concubine, and we don't know, did she die in that, or Veronica, do you have a...
From what I read, it seemed like he was trying to fake her death, but he told but he says he cut them.
Yeah, it's totally possible that he killed her. We don't know. She isn't moving, but when he gets her home, he dismembers her body. And then it's not funny anymore. It's like, okay, it's funny when you but then you realize this guy is horrible. Yeah.
I did have to wonder why he went through the trouble to go get her from her father's house.
Why does he love her, do you think?
Well, I don't, it doesn't seem like it. And it seems like...
He's asleep. She's being gang raped by a town, and he's asleep. He's sick.
And it seems like story is like the placeholder for what the angels were in the other story, which some people might say that's Jesus and the Holy Spirit.
Right. So how does he compare? So who's worse, Sodom and Gomorrah or Benjaminite and this Levite?
Do we have to compare?
I think you can make an argument for this Levite being the worst guy, because in Romans it says that the people who don't know the law are called the law. They're counted as righteous, but the people who know the law, that's the
And
worst.
don't, or
Yeah.
We also see how, what I noticed is that God being present in what was happening inside of me almost made it, not going to say better, but the fact that there were a few righteous people made the whole difference. Meanwhile, people here, it was the same thing, but God wasn't there, where it was complete chaos. And they didn't.
Yeah. Have you ever read, now remind me, what tribe is this town where all this happens? Benjamin. Okay. Have you ever read in Romans 1 where Paul writes about horrible sin and people who are just gross sinners? And where does he go in that list? Like once you get in deep into that list, where does he go? Right, lesbianism, and then he goes into Sodom and Gomorrah and he says, look, God's judgment is going to come. And you read that, and it's just judgment, 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 right? Would you grant that in 1? Then in 2, Paul turns it on its head and says, therefore you're guilty. Every single one of you are judging those people because you do the exact same thing. So he's saying you judge those people as being bad, but you do exactly the same thing. And remind me how the Benjaminites survive as a tribe. So everybody takes an oath. Nobody's going to give their daughters to those wicked Benjaminites. So they end up stealing their wives. They let the girls dance, and their fathers say, well, we're going to turn our backs, and if you want to go grab one, you go grab one, but we're not giving. Good thing or bad thing? I mean, your dad does that to you, you're going to, yeah, or like, no. So the men go up and grab these women, and that's how Benjamin survives. Now, remind me what tribe Paul was from. Paul was a Benjaminite. So the only way he survived as a human being is because God's Sodom and Gomorrah judgment didn't fall. So when he says in Romans 9, if God had left us alone, we all would have become like, what does he say? Sodom. We would have been made like Gomorrah. Would you grant that those two stories are connected in terms of biblical theology? Whatever the Bible's teaching about folks who struggle with homosexuality, that somehow you've got to get all those pieces in the puzzle? And what about this? So Abraham says 50, right? But he knew what Sodom was like, so he said 45, 40, 30. He knew what Sodom was like, 20, 10. So what do you make of Psalm 14? Yahweh looked down from heaven on the sons of Adam to see if any were righteous. Any together they had become corrupt. There is none righteous, no, not one. In other words, Psalm 14 is saying Abraham could have pled from 10 all the way down to what? 1. Help me with that.
Shows God's grace that He let Lot's family get out there.
So did you know the New Testament calls Lot a righteous man? Now, what do I want you to do every time I say something in terms of the Bible? What do I want you to do? Don't believe it unless back it up. He rescued righteous Lot. Now you laugh. Would you call Lot righteous? So, kicking and screaming, he sleeps with his own daughters, but he does have an excuse. He was too drunk to know what he was doing. Oh, well, that totally makes it all right. For a while there, I thought you might be a bad person or something. As long as you were so drunk that you didn't realize what you're doing, that. But Peter calls him righteous. And he even defends that. He says, for as that righteous man lived among them day after day, he was tormenting his righteous soul over their lawless deeds. Peter is rightly, Lot says, please don't do this. But would you grant that that's kind of cherry picking Lot's history, like picking the one positive thing out of many, many negative things? It's almost like the New Testament has this gracious memory where when the New Testament looks back, okay, Lot did a lot of terrible things, but it was good that he tried, and that's what the New Testament. Okay, so when it calls Lot a righteous man, let's go back to Genesis 6. The Lord looked down from heaven. I'm going to wipe out Ha-Adam. Ha-Adam, I'm going to wipe out. Noah finds Hain in God's eyes, grace. Noah was a righteous man, perfect in his generation. Would you grant that if we read this story and the Abraham story and the Noah story together, that they're using that term righteous in a different way than kind of just a normal reading of the text? That they're righteous in a different way than kind of a casual. Isn't that how God saves everybody? Would any of us stand up if put under the scrutiny of God's examination? There is one righteous person in our city, and it's the Lord Jesus. And He is the only reason that we all aren't. And did you pick up the Lot? What God says about Lot? I saved Lot because of you, Abraham. Did you pick that up at the end? God's saving us because of Jesus. These stories are building one on the other. They're telling the same story, and they're inviting us to read from a whole Bible biblical. And when we do that, we see that everybody's saved exactly the same way. They're undeserving, unrighteous people who are saved because of the graciousness of God, being clothed with the righteousness of another. And then that comes to full fruition with the person of Jesus. All right, so run out of time. I'll see you on Monday.